This agency added $2.4 million in pipeline in only 90 days. And I'm about to give you the exact emails we used to do that. So let's get into the emails. Now, first up, the proof. So they've added $2.4 million in pipeline to my company in the first 90 days of working together. That's a direct quote from David Valentine, CGO at Jaddy Communications. So how did we do it? Black Oak Casino Resort. So this is a casino that spent $2 million on advertising, and that was the size of the opportunity. And so to get into a couple of the emails. So first up, Danielle, came across your profile on LinkedIn. Hope you don't mind me reaching out this way. Based on previous work with brands like Westin and Four Seasons, I thought some of these might be priorities. Number one, creating targeted marketing strategies to attract diverse audience segments. Two, managing branding and messaging to ensure consistency across various platforms. And three, measuring and analyzing ROI to optimize marketing efforts and drive results. Had a few thoughts around improving your marketing strategies to attract diverse audiences to share with you. Have a few minutes to chat, waiting with crossed fingers. Papa. P.S. I promise not to share too many dad jokes. And you can see the signature line there. Now, in this case, I was reaching out as myself on behalf of the client. And so, whether it's that or whether it's with a client, sometimes we like to have a little bit of fun, particularly in this PS line and in the signature. And you can see that actually that was one of the things that got the attention of the marketing director at Black Oak. So, Papa, I don't generally sign up for these calls, but I do find your PS fun. I looked up your LinkedIn and now I'm intrigued and would like to learn more about your company. Sure, I'll make time for a chat. I'm in the office this week, but we'll be out next week. Now, what does this email do well? Obviously, we've mentioned already that, sometimes you just need to cut through the noise with some of this kind of stuff. But also, if we look up, you can see that this email is highly tailored and personalized and relevant to the person we were sending it to. So first off, obviously what we've done is segmented the market so that we're only sending this to people to whom it's relevant. But then we're actually mentioning, pretty relevant case studies and social proof. And then the entirety of the rest of this email is personalized to the recipient. So based on previous work with brands like Westin and Four Seasons, relevant, I thought some of these might be priorities, right? Number one, number two, number three, all of these are completely personalized and tailored to Black Oak Casino and what they're doing there. And then, had a few thoughts around improving your marketing strategies to attract diverse audiences. Again, this is another thing that we personalized based on what we were able to research about the company. And so essentially this entire email is completely personalized, right? Only one person in the list is going to receive this email. And so you can see why it attracted her attention and why they were able to book that call. And again, the size of this opportunity was they spend $2 million a year on advertising. Let's go to the next one. So we have Cloud9 Esports. Now, Cloud9 Esports is one of the biggest esports organizations in the world. So what was the email that got their attention? So again, Tim, I was just reading that you excel in competitive gaming innovation. Wondered what measures you're taking to expand your market and connect better with international players. The reason I ask is through our work with partners like Nintendo, Sony and WildWorks, we've picked up a couple of creative ideas to help better penetrate international markets. Mind if I send more info to being your favorite email of the day? And then PS, we also help take Nat Geo Animal Jam from 0 to over 10 million players in 24 months. Now the response, hey Dave, pleasure to meet you and thanks for reaching out. He goes into essentially what Cloud9 does, the fact that they're competing in the Esports World Cup. We don't create games, but our pros and content creators can help promote any game. Happy to have a conversation or send through your ideas to my company email CC'd here. That's the global head of sales, right? Now, what does this email do well? So first off, it's worth saying that sometimes you just have incredible social proof and that on its own is going to get attention. If you've worked with Nintendo, Sony and WildWorks, and you've also helped take Nat Geo Animal Jam from 0 to over 10 million players in 2 years, that on its own is incredibly impressive, right? And so it's just about framing that in the email. But sometimes you might not have that level of social proof, or you might have social proof, but it's not with big names like that. And again, there, what it's all about is just framing that social proof. So if you can get it so that you've worked with a certain company and you're reaching out to a company which is essentially exactly the same in its pains, in its problems, in its, in what it's looking to achieve, then that case study is obviously going to resonate a ton better. And you're going to be able to get through their attention and again, cut through the noise as a result of that. Again, we just have a bit of fun here saying to being your favorite email of the day. But again, you can see that this is all personalized, right? So it was just reading that you excel in competitive gaming innovation, wondered what measures you're taking. And again, the end of this sentence is also personalized. Now, one thing that people often overlook is once you get a positive reply, you need to convert that into a meeting. And sometimes that can take a lot of work. And so here's an example of, where I think we did a really good job in doing that. So firstly off, we suggest 2 specific times, right? 12 p.m. or 3 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, giving them one of those 2 times. And then the PS line would also love to hear how you found the move over from Xset. Now, Tim Mulligan, the head of sales here, had just moved over from Xset to Cloud9. And so obviously that's super relevant to him at that time. And that's something that, again, people might respond initially interested, but then you send that email following up, and then they suddenly forget that, they even replied, or they get busy and their inbox gets full, etc. If you do something like this, they're way more likely to respond, right? And then he comes back and says, 12 p.m. ET tomorrow works for me, and I'll send over an invite. And we can definitely chat about Xset as well. Always happy to hear someone is familiar with them, right? So going on to the next one, Lincoln Financial. Now, this is a company with 10K plus employees. Typically for a lot of companies, the type of company that you want to break into, but also the type of company that can be really hard to break into if you're using outbound. But here's the email that we sent. So Daniel, saw on LinkedIn that you've been heading up sales at Lincoln since September 2015. Curious, how have you leveraged your product successes and innovations to stand out in that time, given the fierce competition? Asking because our work with Jackson National helps drive a 37% increase in product volume in 2 years. Is that something you'd be interested in hearing about? And then there was a second email. So I was just reading again how you plan, protect, and retire confidently with Lincoln. When working with Jackson, our key priorities were refreshing their brand identity and enticing brokers to propel products and increase overall volume. In achieving this, we were able to help increase sales for 4 consecutive years. Might not be a fit, Daniel, but interested in discussing if we could do something similar for Lincoln. He came back and said, "Hi Dave, good email, curated content caught my eye. Jackson is a great annuity carrier. Do you have experience working with life insurance carriers? Same or similar but different approaches?" Now again, this turned into a meeting. So what did this email do well? So, right from the top, we're referencing the fact that he is the head of sales and he's been there since September 2015. So again, that's something that is obviously not generic, right? That is personalized and tailored to him, and he's going to actually be able to see that in the preview text. And so, nowadays it's not incredibly hard to find this kind of data, not incredibly hard to do this kind of thing. But if someone sends you a first line that is actually relevant to you and what you're doing, you're that much more likely to open the email and to read the email, right? And so, from there, how have you leveraged your product successes and innovations to stand out in that time, given the fierce competition? This is something we like to call poke the bear, and it comes from Josh Braun, right? And so the whole idea of this is that you want to just ask a question that gets them thinking, and potentially sometimes thinking differently about the challenges or their current situation. And so the whole purpose of this question is for him to actually start thinking, actually, how have we leveraged our product successes and innovations? And the fact that there is fierce competition is a fact. We know that that's a fact in that market. And so, again, that's something that is going to resonate with him because we've done our research going into the email. Asking because I work with Jackson National. So again, mentioning a firm which maybe not doing directly the same thing, but is relevant in the space, helped to drive a 37% increase in product volume in 2 years. Again, great social proof. Is this something you'd be interested in hearing more about? Light CTA, soft CTA, we're not pushing for a meeting directly from that first email, but we are asking, is that something you'd like to hear about? And then they can come back, and if they want to go straight to a meeting, they can say, yep, let's just meet and talk about it, or we can send over some more information and we can go from there. So the whole point of this email is just to get a reply. Once you get a reply, then you can, go into things in more depth. Same with this follow-up email. Again, we've just personalized the first line, but, then stating what our key priorities were with Jackson, because a lot of the time, if you don't get a response to that first email and you have mentioned a case study, you might want to go into more detail in that second email, in that first follow-up email, and just say, hey, this is actually exactly what we did. And again, here's a reminder of the kind of results we got. So if you're able to help increase sales for 4 consecutive years, that's obviously a great thing that you want to actually leverage in that email. And again, soft kind of CTA might not be a fit, Daniel, but are you interested in discussing if we could do something similar for Lincoln? And that's the email to which he responded. So, these are just 3 examples of emails that helped us to generate that $2.4 million in sales pipeline. We booked a ton more meetings in that time, but these emails, I think, give you a pretty good idea of the types of principles that we like to leverage, with personalization, with those kind of softer CTAs, and also obviously dropping in relevant social proof into every single email. So if that's something you're interested in us doing for your agency, then there'll be a link in the description below, and let me know and we can go from there. Thanks.